Welcome to the AI Microskills podcast, where I'm curating the best lessons on AI for marketers who want to leverage the best of what's available now. Today, I'm talking to Karl Yeh about how to become more productive with AI. Karl, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Dan. I've been following you for so long, and it's great to be on your show and connect.
Dude, it is. That's the fun thing about LinkedIn. You could be building relationship in the comments for years, and then when you finally meet face to face, it's kind of like
Yeah,
you know each other already. It's a fun experience. Experience that's probably maybe even going away with like people using AI commenting systems now. I'm like, have your bots call my bots. That's kind of how I feel like where it's going now. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point. I'm excited to have you on, man. I'm taking the deep dive into AI. I've been started really drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, I've been playing with AI consistently over the last year, and I'm using Cast Magic to automate stuff. And I have my OpenAI Pro account, and I use it probably daily now. But only over the last couple of weeks, I'm like, that's it. It's time to roll up my sleeves and really, really dive into this and start learning about how people are actually leveraging it and getting the most out of AI as it is right now or in the near future.
for sure.
So to kind of kick it off, I'd love to know like what are some of your best workflows for Chat GPT specifically around just productivity?
Okay. Specifically around ChatGPT, I think there's one piece. Now it all depends too if the person has a GPT Plus account or just using the free version of ChatGPT. Highly recommend if there's nothing else you would spend on, maybe cut your Netflix and go to the Plus version. Although OpenAI has, paused their
I know.
acceptance of new Plus users just because it's overwhelming. But for
Just
me,
goes to show you how good it is, right? People are like, it's like, hold on, no, don't give us money, don't give us money, we're not ready.
give us, which is crazy. Like I've never heard of a business that says that.
I
Don't
know.
give us money.
Yeah.
So if you do, and you can do this with normal Chat GPT, but it's a little, you'll have to do a bunch of workarounds. But for me, the number one thing for I feel this for any business is building your own copilot. So when I talk about a copilot, like we've created a copilot for 0 to 60 AI, the company that I'm co-founded, but it's, we're talking about, imagine a business mentor, coach, even investor that will be on your shoulder every day that you can ask questions to related specifically to your business. So imagine that ability 24/7 and literally can answer things like, I don't know, like advice on handling clients, business development, how to charge clients, in and technology insights, how to use AI for internal business operations, finance, accounting, human
Yeah.
resources, all these things. If you actually create, like we created a GPT
Okay.
specifically on that.
Hold on. I got pause.
Sure, sure, sure.
You're getting into the deep end real fast, Carl. Like,
Yeah,
slow down a little bit. You're talking about like that's I got a question for that. It's question
sure.
number 4, but like for people who are new to this and are like maybe they fiddled with it,
Yeah,
like give me some prompts, give me some productivity stuff of like, okay, building a co-pilot's this is a bigger undertaking, but if someone's like getting into the shallow end, what does that look like for it? Because I'm with you on the custom GPTs. I've only started digging into that. We'll trade a little stories here in a second, but give me some basic productivity stuff from the shallow end.
so let's say you can actually do this without building a custom GPT. I think
Okay.
the only difference is that a custom GPT has a knowledge base where you
Yep.
can upload information and where it can pull from.
Yep.
Now, you can, if you don't have ChatGPT Plus, you can actually, or what if you use other language models like Bard or Claude or Llama or whatever you're using, you can prompt your way to a copilot. So I know the immediate uses of AI would be task, like to complete a task, right? And for marketers, a lot of it is content creation, sometimes some strategy, maybe analyzing financials or reporting. But if you actually think about what an LLM could do and the ability to, what kind of prompt you can give it, it doesn't have to be specifically about tasks. it can be about, hey, providing you that strategy, providing you the advice. So for example, I'll give you a really simple prompt. This is how we start our Copilot. You are a business Copilot and strategist for our AI consulting firm called 0 to 60 AI. You provide business advice, strategy, tactics on building our business. And then I lead with, you're a world-class expert in business strategy and development, especially for startups and consulting firms. You are an expert in understanding the challenges and opportunities for small businesses and how they can navigate AI to make an impact. So that line itself sets up, whether you're using free or a GPT, sets the context of what this Copilot will do. And then
Yeah.
I add a couple little things, like you have decades of experience building businesses and scaling them, and understand the power of AI to fundamentally change how a business operates. Like that alone should set you up. And that's like just the starting point, but there's obviously a whole bunch of things you can add, like context criteria and other stuff to build your GPT or your Copilot.
It's funny. I'm using I started with just basic prompts like most people do, especially if you're in content marketing world. You're like, hey, like it's super normal if you're podcasting to just take the transcript and use that to tell it to make a blog post,
Yep.
social post, tweet thread, like all that stuff. Cast Magic now automates that whole process for you. But it's pretty basic. And I've been doing that for a while. Only within the last, I'd say 2 months have I started like using Chat GPT to help me think, which is like, in my opinion, like a different level of using Chat GPT. I even did it this morning and I was like, what did I prompt it with? I'm like, can you give me some business models even around this podcast and this
Mhm.
market? And I'm like, what are some target markets for it? And it spit out some target markets. I'm like, hey, Google me, Dan Sanchez, marketer, and it'll find my website. Here's my resume. Based on my previous experience, which market should I go after? And it did a
Mhm.
fantastic job of analyzing what I had already done and said and remember talking about, and telling me, like, based on where you're at, based on what I'm seeing, you should probably focus on this industry. I was like, huh, actually, that's really good. It helped clarify my thinking. So you're talking about using Chat GPT to really essentially help you think,
For
which
sure.
you don't have to build a Copilot with. Or, I mean, you don't have to get into custom GPTs even to
Nope,
do that.
not at all. And I think like there's more layers you can add onto it, right? You can give it your target audience, like who are you trying to reach?
Yep.
You can
Yep.
give it a description of your business, what your business goals are, and then, that sets the context of it, and then give it some examples. You don't have to give all the examples of how you plan to use this. And the beauty of it is once you put this in, you'll now have a thread that you can continuously ask questions against it. So you've built this AI Copilot for your business, or it doesn't have to be your business. If you're a marketer working for, whatever company, you can be specific to your industry, be specific to your team, be specific to a project. You can actually build multiple Copilots on certain things. And the awesome thing about a Copilot is it can create you content because it
Yep.
has the context of
Yep.
what you're looking for. So it's a really simple way to really use to enhance the use of ChatGPT, going beyond just, create certain pieces of content or accomplishing a task.
So before we get into custom GPTs, tell me a little bit more about what kinds of roles you are having AI speak to.
It depends on the situation. So like one example would be, we wanted to this is kind of outside the marketing scope, where there was a submission, and the submission is, creates a PDF, and then that PDF gets turned into code and then applied. So instead of, say, you are a marketer, you are, the situation is more on business analyst, more on specializing in, let's say, grant applications. So what I did is, you are a world class business analyst specializing in grant applications for whatever industry.
Yeah.
That sets the context. And then you can add like fillers, like you've had decades of experience, you've had whatever else that you can put in. But that does set the context of it. But you can, from a role perspective, you can be anything. Just think about what role would this task or this action normally fall under and apply that.
Does it really make a difference if you add the words world class or you have decades of experience to the role? I mean, I can understand how the role, you are X, give me feedback as X. But have you tested that? Like I see lots of people are saying it, but I'm like, does it really make a difference? Does it change it? Does it go to a different level saying world class,
I've actually tested it more so on you are a world class, let's say, copywriter. You are a junior copywriter. There's a big difference with
Interesting.
the outputs, right? Now, you may not, obviously, from a copywriter perspective, I've yet to meet anyone who wants to put junior or intern copywriter, but there are probably situations where you don't want it. You want it to be at a specific level. I just haven't really thought about that yet. But imagine like you can set those levels, which is a power in itself.
I'm like, why wouldn't I want world class everything working on all my business, right?
Exactly.
I'm like,
I actually have an example for this. I just thought of it. Imagine if you put, like, let's say you're in school and you're like, I want to be a world class, I don't know, engineer who does this, but I need to write a paper. The output of that paper, imagine like, I am a graduate level engineer. I need to create this. Very like, that's how one way you can, I guess you can control the output of, using AI.
That's a good point. Actually, I can think of times, especially if it's giving advice to you, sometimes world class advice is just highly impractical to somebody who's in the beginner stages. Like if you're studying jujitsu, it's a very nuanced sport and you want some feedback. I'm just kind of shooting since we all know like jujitsu has belt levels. Getting feedback from a like third degree black belt, unhelpful often. Getting feedback from a purple belt who's like 3 steps up from a white belt, probably way more helpful.
Yeah, that's like a great use case. And you can test it, right? You can always test these things.
Yeah.
But it'd be fascinating to see what the outputs are.
So that's kind of an interesting case. I'll have to think about that as I go and get it to give me feedback. I can think about like what maybe a role a step or two ahead might be more accessible for me where I'm at now. So that's cool. Let's dive into custom GPTs. Only something I started playing with maybe 2 weeks ago. I discovered that it was there, and it blew my mind. I knew the applications as soon as I saw it because I've been working at tech companies, and they're all about uploading documents. Just even for chatbots, you have support chatbots, and they're like, well, you can train the chatbots on your operations and your docs so they can provide better answers to your customers. Obvious use case, right? That's where most people are spending their time on right now. The funny thing is, even as I was working at that company and they're doing chatbots for like higher ed institutions for admissions, lots of details to know. Even humans don't know all the details about all the admissions details. And it's really helpful for a chatbot who knows all the schools ins and outs, the whole product catalog, which is usually how schools operate. But even as we were developing it, the HR director said something different. She's like, man, you know how many people ask me about like HR things that I answer over and over again? And it really opened when she said that. I was like, man, this has so many implications to be able to upload information and be able to ask it questions based on that information, because this is the new search engine. To be able to not just answer a question that's hidden in a doc somewhere, but actually do analysis on it, actually create content from it, actually have the full context. It's a game-changing application. That's what that's what custom GPTs allow you to do, is to create your own custom GPTs, your own custom chat GPT based on the information. But tell me what are the different ways that you're using it? Because you can upload documents to it, but you can also train it.
Yeah. There's so one of the things that, I've been using before and actually client wise, setting those up were custom AI chatbots. Like tools like Chatbase, Retune, Dante have actually built these already. And there's differences between custom GPTs and those chatbots. There's pros and cons to both. I think from a GPT perspective, the big one right now is that only ChatGPT Plus users can engage with them.
Yep.
And a custom AI chatbot like a Chatbase, you can embed on websites and embed on pages, which then allow a broader use. But the one thing that I feel, let's start with basic first. What you're talking about is data retrieval, right? So you
Yep.
ask a question, it retrieves data, it provides the answers.
It's helpful.
There's a lot of use cases for that. But let's take
Let
that
me
one.
let me
Go.
give one use case real quick because I just did it. I
Sure.
just got elected to like my HOA board.
Okay.
New neighborhood, they needed a board. I was like, sure, why not? Dude, I don't you know how long the bylaws are? And I
Mhm.
don't read legalese. I'm like brand new. I'm a marketer, I'm a business guy, but I don't read legal. I uploaded the whole CCRs, like the whole bylaws, ChatGPT, made a custom GPT. Now I just ask it what I want. I'm like, wait, what's the process for this? What are the rules on X?
For sure.
How long before Y? It's way and it interprets it for me. It's way smarter. Of course, I have to go reference it just to make sure, but like
Yeah.
it's way easier for me than to go and look at the table of contents, try to decipher what the heck it's saying. It's much smoother. So that's the one application I found just for data retrieval for myself.
And one thing that you have to think about too, because you're using with a custom GPT, you're now using like the advanced versions of GPT-4. And when you create them, you can have you have code interpreter or advanced data analytics, whatever
Yep.
they term,
Yep.
that it can analyze, structured data like CSVs, reports, and so on. But the one big piece that I really love about it is you use GPT-4 with vision. So you can upload images on a variety of things. So Black Friday, simple example. Now this you can use this with GPT-4. So you can download the app. If you have GPT-4, you can use Vision. What I've been doing is taking pictures of like price tags. So I took a
Hmm.
picture of price tag and said, okay, is this the best deal for, I don't know, I think I was at furniture store, wherever that was. For this type of couch, I took a picture of the couch too. Um, Best deal in Canada, give me alternatives. So analyzes the price, analyzes the couch, gave me a bunch of like alternatives for that couch. And I was like, fantastic. So now I was looking at the different things.
So I mean, it's doing multiple steps. It takes a picture, analyzes the picture, to understand what the heck this is and the price that
Mhm.
you're talking about, then goes and uses because it's attached to Bing. So it did a Bing search, researched options, and then did the analysis to figure out what the better options were based on what it knew.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of steps that it's doing really quickly.
Oh, for sure. And like from a marketing perspective, think about the reports that like I just took a picture of Google Analytics 4, GA4, like a page. I took a picture of that and I said, give me the top 10 insights, give me the top 10 recommendations based on just the picture. And it gave me everything about it. So then I took a picture of our quarterly reports. That's like, it's a pretty significant, pretty big, spreadsheet. It broke everything down. And then you can just have conversations about, specific things like source, like pipelines and all that kind of fun stuff. But to me, that is the one untapped piece that I think people are missing out. Again, ChatGPT Plus, but like that ability alone I feel it's even stronger than code interpreter because it can analyze like what you have on screen rather than,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what the fields are and all that kind of stuff. It just takes that. And there's so much use for that I think we're just starting to at the moment.
I mean, talking about productivity, I'm like, dude, marketers aren't going to have to write executive summaries or reports anymore. Or
Mhm.
maybe like AI is going to be writing all of them and we're just going to be looking over it, cleaning it up, maybe shortening it down.
Exactly.
Like, like think about how much time we freaking waste on this every month, just writing reports so that someone above us can have an understanding of what we're doing and where we're
Yeah.
behind or where we're ahead. Like AI is just going to do this.
Yeah. And I think the really the big piece that, you know, we're missing out on is just thinking about ways that you could use it, right? Because at the moment there's prompting courses and there's a whole bunch of how to use it for creating specific tasks, how to use it for making money, and so on. But this is where I feel there's a big gap and it's widening, is that there's people who use AI frequently versus people who use it infrequently or not at all. But because of the pace of change, the people who are using it frequently get upgraded with, hey, they know this came out, this came out, this came out, this feature came out, and just keep upgrading their skills. But the
Yep.
people who use it infrequently or don't use it at all, like they don't know that these things are coming, and they may have just used, let's say, a chat GPT a couple times. They're like, the answers aren't very good, I'm not going to use it, or I use it sometimes. I think like there's that big gap, and I feel the gap is because everything's moving so fast. All these tools are coming out. There's no one actually using to educate, and
Mhm.
then how to apply it from a real business sense. Like there's a lot of hype. There's like, here's a new tool, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, how can businesses actually use it in a reliable, scalable manner? And I think that's like the missing piece. And that's where like that's where we can focus on. And I feel like that's a place that, with your podcast and other people can really dive into. It's like, hey, how can you help people, businesses like use it today? Not just like prompts in a bunch of like content creation, but like there's actually really cool, tangible things you can use it with.
That's what I'm hoping to do. It's why this podcast now exists, because I didn't find what I was looking for. So now I'm like, well, then I'm going to have to go and figure it out. I'm going to have the
Yeah.
conversations myself, because there are I finally found a bunch of YouTubers that talk about AI, but too often they're talking about
Yeah.
theoretical, even LinkedIn people. And there's very practical stuff. You're posting a lot of practical stuff. There's a lot of practical stuff out there, but oftentimes a lot of the gurus are talking about theoretical applications
Yes.
of
Yes.
like, oh, look, it can do this really cool, fancy thing that's not even close to practical, but it's kind of cool to think about
Yeah.
what this 1.0 version could look like
Sure.
2 years from now. I don't know. Movie making. Whoa. It's
Yeah.
not even
It's,
close. It's not practical right now. It's stupid.
I feel like a lot of the bigger creators like AI or AI could do this with this new feature, or I created this tool that does all this amazing stuff. But if you think about it, I'm like, no business is going to use that because it's not reliable. It kind of does it
Yeah.
half the time.
Yeah.
And then my favorite ones are, oh, it's going to kill this, replace this, kill. I'm like, either you're really, really misleading or you're really ignorant of how businesses actually operate, because no business is going to use that and replace all their people. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
happen like that. So I think that's where the hype comes in. A lot of people get
Yeah.
like, ugh. But hey, what are some actual things that you can do again beyond just prompting and using ChatGPT?
Right. Right. Tell me more about what you're doing with what you're calling making a copilot. Like, now let's dive into that. How are
Yeah.
you? What are you using it for? What kind of documents are you uploading, and what instructions are you loading into this thing?
So let's go. Actually, there's one marketing use case that I think is amazing. Is I created an ABM Copilot, and what this does is it's a little advanced in terms of what you can use a knowledge base with, but its initial task, like, so we'll break it down on what it does. First thing, it asks you about, I think 7 questions on what your target prospect, just like any ABM, account based marketing, what the information about the account, right? It'll ask you 6 7 questions about it. Then at the end, it will say, hey, can you upload any supporting documents, whatever that is. There's actually now custom chat GPT can't upload website content, like it can't train on it, but there's actually a site that you can use where you can actually it scrapes the pages, turns it into a JSON that you can then upload into a custom GPT, hence
Scrapes like
training.
LinkedIn profiles and stuff.
um I don't know, I've just been using it for websites. I'm not sure about LinkedIn. You're gonna have to test that out. That'll be
Okay.
something to test out.
But if you had structured data with all your
Mhm.
account list, is all you
Oh,
really need.
you
It
can
could be
just
in a
feed that
CSV, could
you
be a
can feed that
JSON
right
list.
in. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Now, After it takes all that information, it provides a couple things. It provides the 10 potential marketing strategies, tailored on the information from the project. I gave it very specific instructions, right? Like provide strategies on how buyers buy in 2023, go beyond the typical marketing strategies, take unique approaches to this particular account, tailor the strategies to be deeply personalized based on the information provided. And then I'd say refer to products and solutions in your knowledge base. And that's where the website scraped is coming in, because then it's referring to the products and information there. So it got that. Then I also have it do 10 potential messaging tailored to the prospect. And this one's the neat thing about a GPT versus a custom AI chatbot is you can interact and engage directly with the knowledge source. So, for example, here I said, make sure to use the writing guide in the knowledge source when writing any content. So, whenever I type in for this GPT, write me an email or whatever, it would actually refer back to the writing guide to ensure that it matches the brand tone or whatever that is, the voice and style.
Yeah.
So, and I think like in addition to this custom GPT, I actually had hotkeys. And I got this from another GPT called Grimoire, where you add hotkeys and then it executes instructions. So one of the hotkeys is implement, report task number 1 from the knowledge base. And so report task number 1 in the knowledge base is essentially a Word doc that is a set of prompts. So when I say execute that, it looks at the knowledge base, looks at that name, and then executes that task in there. And then it does it. So that knowledge task was online search, look for reports, filter reports, give me the top, content of the latest report from this company. That was the research task number 1. And then another one is implement competitor analysis. And so it would execute a competitor analysis using, Bing and any other offerings that you've uploaded as well. So
Yeah.
that's a full copilot that a marketer could ask against, continue to ask, gets messaging, gets base strategies, and can upload more information or just get strategies, recommendations, advice on one particular account. And I think
Yeah.
imagine the potential for that.
Yeah. It's huge. It's funny. I find using cheap custom GPTs is a lot like training interns on how to do things. Right? Like I used to run in part of a different organization I worked for, 2 organizations. I ran an internship program, and I'd have 10 new people come in every year, and they'd be working 15 hours a week for a whole year, which means I was retraining 10 to 12 interns every single year, which when you're doing that, and they were doing important jobs, any jobs I could figure out how to train them quickly enough to get value out of them and then them learn some stuff. I've launched a lot of marketers in their career this way. But I would train them how to write good blog posts, and that's the only thing they would do, or how to manage social media. That's the only thing they would do, or how to just do certain styles of video. But when you're doing that, you have to have a certain amount of training on what's your job description, who are you and what do you do, what's the mission of the organization we're aligning this to, what is the reference docs for how to do this that you're going to get trained on. You're going to read through it all one time, and then you'll probably have to go back to refresh every once in a while. And then what are the standard operating procedures for each thing you have to accomplish within your role? I had to get crystal clear on it because they don't know anything. Like they're coming right out of high school into this stuff. I was getting them like not even post college. I was getting them pre college.
Yeah.
And I'd vet them a little bit, right? But I had to train them on how to execute step by step. I'm like, okay, when writing a blog post, you're going to get, this is the information coming to you. You're going to have a keyword. You already have the title pre-written. I'm going to give you, you're going to have an outline already pre-written for you. Your task is to go and learn everything you can about this within 2 hours. Then, based on the knowledge and training you've gotten, You're going to then write this blog post in this specific way, starting with an intro that opens it up broad and has a story, then moving on to the snippet optimization, then moving on to the transition to the next most likely question they're going to ask it, and then to this section, then to this section. And you're just going to repeat this step over and over again. You train GPTs the same way. You have reference material and training, but then you actually break down the instructions as far as you can go because it will execute those instructions step by step if you let it. But you have to. It's so funny how smart it is, but how stupid it can be at
For
the
sure.
same time. Have you noticed that?
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
try to get it to just ask me questions. I'm like, only ask me one question at a time. It asks like 5
All
questions.
the
I'm like, oh
questions
my
at a time.
gosh.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
It has a hard time counting for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Uh,
Counting it is not good at. Like counting words, counting characters, counting questions. I don't know. GPT is struggles with it.
the one thing that I've always, so there's a couple of things there too. Like, for example, like, you develop this super long prompt, but the models are always changing. They're always updating them. So sometimes your prompts don't work. Like, it's a term
Yeah.
called prompt drift. So it's like, oh, it doesn't work anymore. So you always have to constantly update it. The
That's a
one
good
piece I
term.
love putting in though is it's called few shot learning. But to me, that's just a fancy word for putting examples. So you just, hey, if there's a specific way you want to write something or create something or advise something, put that in as an example, 1 or 2 examples. It fixes a lot of the stuff. The moment I put an example, whew, like it's exactly what I want.
I've done of that a little bit. I started making I made a custom GPT to automate a process I was already using that was so step by step, but you couldn't you couldn't program it because it was a little bit too intuitive, but GPT could handle it. There's a fantastic book on how to name things. I've read a couple books on the topic when I was naming a lot of podcasts working for Sweetfish. And one book in particular was fantastic called Hello, My Name is Awesome. Fantastic book. It had one naming method that was just so good because it was so easy to execute, where you'd go and come up with a bunch of words that were related to the thing you were trying to name. Find rhymes with that word, then take the rhymes of the words, find movie titles with it in, or find the rhymes, find movie titles, and then or idioms, and then swap out the original word. So, like, I came up with what was it? Mike Club was a community we were building for Sweetfish
Yeah.
because you can hear Fight Club,
Yeah.
but it's because I took Mike rhymes with fight, and then you swap the word. You find Fight Club is a cool title. If I swap out the original word Mike, then I have Mike Club, and I'm like, oh, that's a good name. See how the process works, but it takes a while because for every single word you have 10 different rhyme combinations, and for every rhyme you have to come up with. You can find 10 or 20 or 30 different idioms or movie titles, and then you're swapping out the words and then run it and analyzing it to see what sounds good. ChatGPT can run that effortlessly though, because
Have
it's
you
just
done
time
it?
and finding it.
Have you like
Yeah, I
run
made
it
a custom GPT for it. I'm
just
still
for that?
engineering the prompts
Yeah.
to give it exactly, but it does pretty good. It's so many words to walk through though that I had to break it into multiple steps.
Hmm.
So I'm like, hey, stop at this process and wait for me to say next.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a certain amount of there's a character limit to how much it can give to you in each output. And because it's doing so much process in between each one, I have to like break it up into steps, but it's getting pretty close. I'll send you an example.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'll let you play with it and
To
you
see
can
it.
see how it works.
Yeah. Well, you just touched on one of like the most basic, not the most basic, like a really good technique is chain of thought, right? So I think like if you notice, whenever you prompt anything, well, chatbot, ChatGPT, whatever, it immediately starts answering. But in your prompt, you can always put, take your time. There's no rush. Think through this step by step. And whenever I put that piece in, it really helps sometimes because
Interesting.
it doesn't immediately go into the answer. It won't like it'll still put the output up pretty quick, but it gives it more options to actually break it down, like you just said, one step at a time, rather than trying to answer it all at once. And so that's a in like if you're finding sometimes your prompts are like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or it's just too fast, or it generates stuff that like is kind of right, but not really. Try to put that in, think through step by step, and a lot of times it could definitely help with the output.
It's so funny because sometimes you feel like you're dealing with a machine and therefore it can get exact stuff right, but it feels more like you're coaching a human, a very I don't know how to put this, but it's like a genius, an awkward 19-year-old genius who
Yeah,
lacks common sense. That's ChatGPT.
yeah.
You know,
You have to
you're
spell
coaching
things out.
something with like all the knowledge out there on the internet and yet still has a hard time making common sense decisions.
Yeah,
You're trying to get it to think through that.
for sure, for sure, for sure. No, I found that too is just the way that, I don't know if you found this, but I think like for all of us, we've been trained to Google, like,
Mm,
right? Just put a couple words and it comes out with something.
right.
But the thought process behind using a large language model is a little different because you're right. It's like, think about it like a teenager with this vast array of knowledge that you have to kind of help maneuver in a certain direction, right? And that's why you put like act as whatever, give it some context, give it some criterias on what kind of outputs it does versus just trying to put in one or two sentences and looking for the output. It's two very different. I know there's a lot of talk about prompt engineering, but it's more of like understanding there's a difference between, one or two lines versus like, hey, giving it actual context to what you want it to do, right?
Have you gotten anywhere in the productivity space and or business productivity and marketing where you're starting to automate more stuff?
Yeah. And that to me is more applicable or accessible than GPTs. I feel so. For example, like I love using these three examples. The first one is a lot of companies have some sort of tool. I would like example would be Gong, where they're collecting a lot of like customer information, like collecting on calls or discovery calls or demos or whatever. And those are great, but who has time to actually listen to them and process specifically what you want out of it? So what I've developed is, using there's a tool called Respell, and
Mm,
all I do is either drag and drop the audio. Sometimes the audio is like an hour long. Just drag and drop the audio using a very like a longer prompt. Figure out like, hey, what specific things do you want to get out of that call? And then in about a minute or two, it'll spit it out. But what you can do with the Respell is connect it to either Zapier or it has native integrations to Slack, and then pump that out into Slack. Because I think one of the challenges for customer insights is like, how do you get that insight to a broader range of people, not just
yeah.
yourself, right? So you can put that on a Slack channel, you can put that in a Google Docs. So it makes people don't have to listen to those customer insights. They can just see in a couple paragraphs in bullet points, hey, these are the specific things that, let's say, product marketing needs, but you can also create one for demand generation. You can create one for creative, whatever that is. You can tailor those outputs based on your prompting and what do you want it to look for on that. So in 1 to 2 minutes, so like for example, like every couple weeks, one business would be they would just load in, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 calls, get the individual summaries, and you can take it even one step further and summarize the summaries. Summarize those 8 into here's the trends that you're looking for. And you can do this all through drag and drop copy paste. I would say 10 minutes to get not just individuals, but those summaries of summaries. That's just like one awesome use case that you can now automate with with a little bit of manual, but the little bit of manual is just control C, control V,
Yep.
or drag and drop.
Yep.
And to me, that's like a super easy way for your whole team to actually understand your customer.
Well, I mean, it's automating a lot of steps. You still have to kick it off manually, but when you upload it, it's transcribing it and
Mhm.
then using AI to interpret it in the right way and then auto posting it through Zapier to Slack. So like you've automated 4 steps in the process there. It'd be great if it was also hooked up to the right call system and then tagged appropriately that it would just kick over there automatically, but we're getting there. It's going to be, we're
getting
not
there.
far away.
Yeah.
I feel like most AI automations are usually still have a manual process somewhere and they're not fully automated, which even with this podcast, I'm trying to get it so it's fully automated because I don't like this will be turned into a blog post. I don't like that I have to manually drag it over to Cast Magic and then turn it into a blog post and then copy and paste that over to the blog.
Yeah.
I'm slowly automating more and more of this whole process because I'm lazy and if I have to do something the same thing twice, I'd rather the machine do it.
Well, like the thing that, there's another automation that I love doing is like there's a show that I do and it's about 30 minutes, 40 minutes long. And the outputs are always the same thing: a blog post, LinkedIn description, YouTube description. So right after, same tool, Respell, take the audio, drag and drop, and then it outputs 1, 2, 3, all the things. Now, it takes about a minute or two, but to set this all up takes about an hour and a half. For me, it did, because every single output I had to actually individually test and create, so the output is exactly what I want. And there's a little trick too where you can kind of train the bot. So let's say it outputs a YouTube description. There's no way you just put the YouTube description as is. There's a little bit of human, review.
Yeah.
After you review it, let's say, you made a couple changes, but this is exactly how I want it to look. Just copy and paste that into the prompt as an example. And then every single time you can technically train the outputs to be more closely to what you want to eventually put out. And so like the blog post was like that, the LinkedIn post was like that, the YouTube description was like that. So what used to take me like 2-3 hours plus whatever time it took to create the blog post now takes a minute or two. And even with ChatGPT, it still took me like 20 minutes because I'd have to find the thread, copy the transcript, all that stuff. I don't need to do it anymore. Just drag, drop, and it's there. And now I have the content ready, and it took 2 minutes total to do that. So I think these are the kind of things that, as a marketer, hey, could you think about the automation of this?
Yeah. Like you can almost just do an audit of your existing processes, manual processes, automated processes, and what steps can be enhanced, improved, or were missing because of a lack of ability to tap into something like AI that you weren't doing before. There's a lot of different things going on that can now be improved because there was a limit. There was just limits to marketing automation before.
For sure.
AI is going to fill a lot of the gaps of what were possible because you didn't have the data and couldn't structure it without great pains and a massive dev team to be able to do it before. Now you can.
Yep.
Curious, where do you think, like, I don't want to get too far out in the future, but what do you think's like on the near horizon for AI? Like you're pretty confident this is going to happen over the next year max, like within the next 2 years, but generally within the next year that you're most looking forward to?
The big one that I feel that like a lot of companies are solving for is agents. Where if you look at what AI can do now, it can do tasks. Even with automation, it does tasks. It can do this, it can do this, it can do this. So I like Dharmesh Shah's, like, he has, like, founder of HubSpot. He had a great definition of AI. What is the definition of an agent? A definition of an agent is it can accomplish goals, not tasks. So if I put in the goal is I want a marketing report every quarter on this, it will then go out and create all the tasks, all the prompts, everything you require for a quarterly report. So you don't have to create the reports, you don't have to upload anything. It'll do it all on its own and then ask you, hey, I need these type of documents, and go off. I believe that there were semblances of that. There were tools like Cognisys, God Mode that were trying to do that, but they only worked 60% of the time, 50% of the time.
Yeah.
But now I think that's where, you could see inklings of that with custom GPTs, but I feel that is the big piece that would be coming out. And I think a lot of people have been talking about it. Bill Gates has been talking about it. Sam Altman has been talking about it. They're all talking about it. And that always, whenever they talk, when there's a lot of talk, that they're trying to solve for that. And you can start seeing a little bits and pieces of that.
Yeah. I have one of my clients that I work with right now is solving that on a sales negotiation coach level,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it's coaching, but it's way more in depth. It essentially taps into your Salesforce org, prompts you with the right questions to give it the right data,
Yeah.
and then takes into account your business. So it's trained on your business, your deals, what you can and can't do, the priorities of your executives. But then you're giving it like all the stuff that your buyers are interested in. What are their requirements for large enterprise deals? What are their key stakeholders, all that kind of stuff. And then it starts actually prompting you like, this is what you need to do in this next call. And then starts actually like, it actually creates for you like I don't know, the offers that you're going to make to the company. Here's good, better, best, and taking everything into account that you've been talking to with these companies to help actually create original value for it. So close strong. I'm excited. That's why I even got kicked off this podcast because I saw what they were doing with AI. I'm like, this is literally like having a pro negotiation
Yeah.
coach in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beyond a consultant because it's able to get well, I guess it's like a consultant as if a experienced 30-year plus negotiation consultant was like always by your side helping you get each step of the process right so that you can close at a higher
Mhm.
percentage. I'm like, oh yeah, your tool is going to make money because
Well,
it's going to
yeah,
make so many other people money. And it's going to be like, of course, we all know that rapid feedback is the key, but no one can afford having that person do more than a training session. And we all know we don't retain training materials.
correct. Yeah.
So having you go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
I'm excited about that future, but also it's a little scary, right? Because what does that mean? Like, are we ready for agents to actually start doing things for us? Like there was a demo I saw way back. I think it was in February about like this company called Adept, where they would do the research for your real estate for yourself. So you'd put like, hey, find a home that is 600,000 or 700,000, 1 million, whatever it is. And it would find it. It would go to websites and would just go find those things automatically without you having to go to the website, just goes to it. So it's like, that's coming. And you can like, they released Adept just released their like beta version. And it's not as that, but it's like, it can go to websites and start searching. So, you know, think about like in a month, 2 month, where does that go?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be doing not simple tasks, but more complex tasks for you, like an actual personal assistant would.
For
I
sure.
mean, we've all heard like the Google call from like, man, this is a while ago, 5, 6 years ago,
Oh
maybe,
yeah.
where Google's AI assistant was making a hair appointment or something for a client, and it sounded real. It talked like a human.
Yeah.
It was just calling up, and it blew everybody's mind.
I just don't know if that was
Nobody could use it. I mean, because it wasn't really available. It was kind of like a nice little demo of like it might as well have been a sci-fi film because
yeah.
we never actually saw it. But now we're actually getting to the point where, hey, like these are going to be real soon, and they're going to be calling people for you. They're going to be doing website research and actually going out and executing on your behalf.
Mhm.
Is it scary? I don't know. I like when you think of like long-term implications, and that's where most AI shows get like really like utopianism or apocalyptic real fast. I'm like, screw it. I just want to implement what's good now.
What's right, what's good right now, for sure.
Yeah. And right now, somebody doing research, basic research for me on the web sounds really nice. So I'm buying into that. Karl, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of AI Microskills. Where can people go to learn more about what you're doing with AI?
For sure. So our website's called 0 to 60.ai. And just what I talked about here, our goal is to really help businesses and people you tangibly use AI today, help educate them. So we try to go beyond the hype and hey, what can you do today with it? How to connect it to your business goals and increase productivity, enhance your efficiency, and just help you do what you need to do for your business.
There you go. Don't fall behind on AI. Contact Karl. Let him help you get ahead faster because we all know that having somebody do it with us can always accelerate the whole process rather than you have to hit every roadblock
Yeah.
there is along the way. So reach out to him in his company. And remember, AI feels complicated at first, but it's like everything else. It can be broken down into tiny steps and pieces. So make sure to stay tuned to subscribe to this podcast and our various social channels at AIMicroskills.com in order to start catching up with the future.